Hal's having his red wine. I'm having my orange juice, California style.
Okay. Well, you guys were on about arriving in the States, or was it arriving in LA for the
LA.
first time and the impressions that it made on everybody? And
Yeah.
yeah, so who wants to go first on that one and give us some insight?
I did suggest LA for the first time, but for the life of me, I can't fucking remember the first time I went there.
You fucking
Was it
dozy.
with Vinegar Joe, or was it with
I can.
Wishbone?
It must have been with Vinegar Joe. I don't even remember being there with Wishbone.
Well, you were fucking high.
Well, that's it.
Me
I'll tell
being
you
a
what,
train
Mal, why don't we
spotter,
talk about something that you can remember?
Well, Granny can remember his first time.
yeah, because
I had for breakfast then.
my
Breakfast
train
in
spotting
America.
habits kicked in. I kept notes. I mean, I wrote down some basic stuff. I just remember we flew from Chicago to LA, and I remember, how far is this fucking place? You know, you fly around in Europe, it's like a 30-minute, 40-minute flight. We're on this plane for like 3-4 fucking hours. I'm like, where are we going? Anyway, and then we're coming in through the smog. You remember in the 70s, the smog was just like
Big layer of brown smoke
it.
across the
It's not like that now. They've done a lot with catalytic converters. But I remember just coming in through the smog. And I remember I'd been in the States for about 3 or 4 weeks by now. I thought I'd got to know it a bit, but then California was so different. The heat, I got in, it was July. And of course, we stayed at the Hyatt House, the Riot House on Sunset. You know, so you're getting your check and you'd heard all about Led Zeppelin riding their motorbikes up and down the corridor. So you're going to the hotel in Hollywood. I remember it being pretty exciting. Me and my mate James, we were just driving this little panel truck. We didn't have a lot of equipment. Steel I Span, this was, by the way, the electric folk group. Very, I don't know how we got gigs booked. It's such an unusual outfit. But we check in the Hyatt House, and I came down for breakfast the next morning, and there's this big Cadillac. You must have seen this, Gregory. The big Cadillac out front with the long horn, the steer horns on the bonnet.
Yeah.
There's some Texas millionaire used to come in for breakfast. All these kind of impressions, and you knew that Hollywood was just down the road. You know, everything was very exaggerated.
I remember being in the Hyatt House,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure who it was. Probably with Wishbone, I think, because Paul Rogers was there with
Wilko
Bad
and Mal.
Company, right?
Yeah.
And he's in the bar. He's in the bar, and he was pissed. And he come up to me and he went, Mal, you're from Hartlepool, aren't you? I went, yeah, Paul. He went, come on then, let's have a fight.
Yeah.
I said, what do you mean? What do you mean, Paul? Come on, let's fucking have a fight. Let's fucking start a fight with somebody.
So Wilko has that experience with him.
He was
Oh, yeah, that's Paul Rogers for you.
yeah, he was all, every time I met him, he was like that. He was supposed to do, I think on that Star Trucking tour, he was we'd done Orange in France.
The amphitheater.
He was supposed to be on that the next day or something, and he was in the hotel. He'd punched, broke his wrist. He'd punched somebody the night before, pissed, broke his wrist, couldn't do the gig. They're cancelled. Just.
And I met him, and he met the fucking full Wilko, believe me. But anyway, my first time in LA, getting here in 75, going through New York and staying in New York for 4 months with the Average White Band, recording Cut the Cake, and taking advantage of being number one with Pick Up the Pieces. We started the tour. We started back east, we were working my way back west. I wasn't the tour manager, I was working with Phil Ashley. Roach Clip, his nickname was.
Roach Clip, yeah.
Oh, this guy used to wake up every morning, about 4 joints. Okay, I'm ready. So anyway, the time we got to fucking LA, Hamish's voice had gone, right? So Bruce McCaskill goes, well, okay, Wilko, you're going to go and spend your time with Phil, and we're all going to be in the hotel. And I was just like really green. I'm going, oh, okay, whatever. So we go to Manhattan Beach, and Phil actually walks in the house, gets into a huge argument with his girlfriend. They both walk out and leave me there with my suitcase. No car, don't know where the fuck I am, anything, right? So I'm sitting there for about an hour, and this guy called Dave walks in. He goes, what are you doing in my house? I said, oh, I'm staying here with Phil Ashley. He goes, oh, okay, do you want a joint? And I was like, well, I might as well start smoking. That's when I first started smoking pot, you know. I was so fucking stoned for 2 weeks in this place.
That's
where I met, in LA. That's where I met Don Boo, who was
These are
still
all
my
beach
best
guys.
mate.
This is down by the beach, so they're all stoners.
Yeah, Manhattan Beach is by the beach. That's why it's Manhattan Beach.
What? Never thought of
So, you know, it was all phone calls back then on a cell. So I got a call from Bruce. He goes, Hamish is okay. Come and get some per diems and some cash. We're starting a tour again. And that was my introduction to the Riot House. I mean, I walked in, it was like, what band are you with? Do you want us to come upstairs with you? And I've taught about 40 chicks running around in all kinds of gear. Yeah, it was crazy.
Those were the days.
In fact, I fucking shit myself.
Yeah, I checked in. I'd been like plowing my furrow, if you get my drift, all across the States. Because in the 70s, English accent, you literally were fighting them off, weren't you? It was incredible, the accents, I guess.
No,
So I was
no,
like,
I
I'm
don't
going to
know.
the Rainbow just for a drink. And I said to my mate James, I've been doing too much shagging. Now, what happens, don't let me leave with anybody. I've got to be careful. And 5 minutes in the Rainbow, I'm like 3 women all over me. And I'm like, hey, off we go. Dude. Right, I go, forget it. Forget everything I said. So it was just Hollywood, wasn't it? The Sunset. You were on the Sunset Strip, and you're not going to behave yourself. It was just.
All right.
I remember it was like
The
just.
Rainbow.
There's an atmosphere walking. You're with a band. It's the '70s. You got your fucking rock and roll T-shirt. You're on your way to the Rainbow. It was fucking brilliant.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
loved it. But
Well, the
we,
second time I went was when, with the Average Whites, I was the tour manager. And we stayed at the Sunset Marquee, which I much preferred than the Riot House.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. And that's when we had Skin Godenzi doing the sound.
well,
And
explain about the Sunset Marquee. It was more low key.
the Sunset Marquee, I think, was more rock and roll than the Riot House. I mean, I don't know if anybody's been there the last 10 years, but it's all been renovated. Has been for the last 20 years. And it's got all these great pictures up of all the rock and roll bands. And it was just more memorable having that suite.
Last time I was in LA, that's where I stayed.
Yeah, well, that's where I saw Pug. The last time I saw Pug, he called me up. He goes, "I'm at the Sunset Marquee. Pop on over." You know, Pug, by the way, is the tour manager for Genesis and Phil Collins, and it was like the old rock and roll days. Checked into his room. As soon as I walked into his room, it was like, "Hello, shall we start?" Yes, okay, let's start. You know, I think I was there for 2 days.
But what gigs did you do in LA? What gigs did you do?
We played the Santa Monica Civic.
Right. Soul Train.
We did Soul Train.
Remember coming to Soul Train?
Santa Barbara. And I was telling Mark Emery last night, Granny, when we first went to the Beverly, Wilshire. And I was advancing, and the manager's going, "You know a rock and roll band here?" I went, no, we're accountants. And he goes, "Oh, okay, well, we don't like you rock and roll bands in our hotel." So I'm like, "Okay, we cool." So we get there, we check it in with the band, the Average White Band. And all of a sudden we hear, "Hey guys, come on in." We look in the bar and there's Ringo Starr bouncing off walls, you know. And it was like, "Hi Ringo, how you doing?" We're right there, just checking in. And the manager's going, "You're definitely not a rock and roll band." I went, no. So all of a sudden the doors came smashing open and he's Granny with with the flight cases. "Hey Wilko, what room are we putting the guitars and the amps in?"
My usual
The manager was like, "Out." And I was like, "No, we'll throw him out." He goes, "I'm not throwing him out, it's Ringo Starr, he's a Beatle."
He's the
Like,
Beatle.
what the fuck is that about? Yeah, the
That
LA
that
man,
was the premier
I never
hotel
had
in
time to see anything.
that and the Beverly
The
Hilton.
what?
The Beverly Hilton and the Beverly Wilshire were the two premier hotels. They didn't want rock and roll trash. They'd take
Yeah?
Ringo's money, but
Oh,
they
no.
didn't want like average rock and rollers. But
No,
uh,
they didn't want to know us at all.
we didn't do any
But I
gigs. When
never
I
really had. Yeah, go on.
was just saying, we actually didn't do any gigs. Well, we did Santa Monica Civic. We came back. We were there doing television, which is really strange. Steel Eye Span, and not very. I don't know how they got these organizations. Steel Eye Span was, just for people who might not know them, it's not Steely Dan. A lot of Americans thought it was Steely Dan, and they came to the gigs thinking they were going to get like Ricky Don't Lose That Number. And you got like a bloke playing a dulcimer, another woman doing like madrigals and 16th century plain song chants. And so we did a TV show, Don Kirshner's rock concert. And I remember being on the
Yeah,
side of the stage, and I'm going, I'm really in America. It was one of those moments. I've got a little list here. I wrote it down. The OJs, backstabbers, they were doing it.
yeah,
They had these
yeah.
bright yellow suits doing the moves. And then Jim Stafford, I don't like spiders and snakes. Remember that one? You might not know it, but then the Hughes
No, I don't remember that
Corporation.
at all.
Hughes
Yeah,
Corporations, they don't rock the boat, rock the. It was very 70s. And then Rufus Wilco with Chaka Khan. So
yeah.
we were there. This was like all being filmed. Very compared to a BBC shoot, it was just really colourful and vibrant. I remember it was fantastic. I'm thinking we're really in America now. You're in Hollywood, and like driving down there, we had to go to Long Beach. I think it was in Long Beach Arena or something. They filmed it, and on the way we passed this little truck, and in the back of the truck was a model of a bloke, a little model of a bloke with a top hat, and he had a big mallet, and it was an exterminator company, and that was their visual thing for killing mice and rats. Is it Western exterminator? And I'm going like it was just a word you didn't hear in England, extermination. I just remember it stuck out. There's a little thing going down the freeway, and we see this thing in the back of a truck. What the hell's that? All too much.
Well,
It was all very visual, all signposts and billboards and traffic and heat. Fabulous.
on about LA, I mean, and you'll agree with me on this one, Mr. Grange. I think one of the best gigs that we ever did in LA was the
Lady.
Palladium.
Yep.
And we get there for sound check, and I've got Joe Cocker legless in a fucking limo, so I sent him off. I just told him anyway. So we did the sound check. We're all backstage, and all of a sudden Atlantic Records arrives. Teddy Pendergrass, Luther Vandross, Greg Allman and Cher, yeah, Marvin Gaye, the whole entourage. And the famous quote from our good friend Molly Duncan, when I finally got rid of everybody, and he opens up his door of his dressing room, he shouts, "Wilko, no vodka, no horn player!" and slammed the door. So I ran like a maniac to the front of the stadium where the bar was. I just went behind the bar, got a bottle of vodka, ran back, got him on stage, and the gig was just packed. I think it was like 3,000 people maybe, but it was just packed.
Mm.
So we always finished with, I heard it through the grapevine. So Hamish looked at me, I looked at him, and I ran upstairs, and I grabbed Marvin Gaye, and I brought him downstairs. And he was like, "What do you want, Wilko? What do you want?" I said, and all of a sudden it was like, dang, 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 dang. He goes, "I don't know the lyrics." As I threw him on stage, the walls of the Palladium went boom,
Yeah.
boom. I mean, the audience went absolutely ballistic. Have you got good photographs of that night, Mr. Grange?
Oh yeah. I mean, Hamish and Alan singing "Heard It Through the Grapevine" with Marvin Gaye. I mean, they couldn't believe it. You
Yeah.
have to picture that place. It wasn't like a big ugly arena. It was a bit like the Hammersmith Pally, like a dance floor.
Yeah,
It was really a good venue. It was really fun.
yeah,
Shit to load in and out of, but I mean that was the way that was. But it was a great warm gig, and the balconies around, so people had a great time. Yeah,
yeah. Well, that's where the green room was, upstairs.
yeah.
There's no
We had
backstage
like
at all.
on our this was our first tour, and I think they were just putting it together week by week. I didn't really get an itinerary. You landed in Boston, and you just stay tuned. So we leave LA. We drove all the way to Seattle in this little truck. That was another experience. You come out of LA, we were looking at the maps, which way should we go? Thought we better stick to the motorways, the freeways, and go up the I-5. Next thing you know, you're virtually in the desert. You like, what? In California, you go through desert, and then you come to like mountains and forests, up into Oregon. I'll never forget that first tour. It was just so and like mind expanding. Everything was bigger, better, colorful. But then we did some gigs up in the northwest Seattle, a couple of radio stations. I think we were just scrambling for work. I didn't give a shit. I mean, I didn't. It wasn't my career. I was just being a roadie. We come back down to Portland, and we did a gig at Portland Civic Center or something. And at the end of the show, people said, "How come you didn't play Ricky Don't Lose That Number?" I really couldn't believe people thought it was Steely Dan. Then we came all the way back down to LA. This time we flew. We did a gig at the Santa Monica Civic, and Roger McGuinn from the Byrds was like the opening act. But we'd been trying to find beer across country. Like I didn't drink real ale stuff, but we wanted like real beer. I like Carlsberg Special Brew. You couldn't get that in the States. People kept saying, when you get out west, they've got Coors. Coors is really in the business, man. And it was like fucking piss. And we were doing the Santa Monica Civic, and the bloke said, "Oh, you're English. You might want to go around the corner to the King's Head." That was it. We couldn't get us out of there. It was like the nearest thing to an English pub we'd seen in the whole time we'd been in the country. And I still know the bloke, the owner. Turns out he was you won't believe this, guys, the owner of the King's Head used to be a fireman at Saltley Railway Shed in Birmingham. So he and I had a special bond there. So yeah, my first California, LA, never forget it.
Another gear thing.
Yeah, well, listen, this stuff. It takes a real man. It takes a real man to fire a black five up the Licky incline. I'll tell you.
Every time.
So, Craggs, you must have done some pretty big gigs in LA.
Yeah.
With your bands, I mean.
Yeah, I've done.
Not his first time.
Memorable ones. Doing the last gig I did in LA was with the Who at LA Ball. You know, I'd never done the Ball. I'd never been in there before.
Oh, Hollywood Ball.
That's it, Hollywood Ball. Yeah. I'd done that with the Who, which was fantastic. You know.
Yeah, great gig.
Yeah. Done them all. Done all the gigs there. Yeah. I remember doing one with Phil Collins at, I forgot what it was called. It's probably called Schaefer Arena these days or something. I forgot what it was called then.
Well, the Greek was a good one to do. The Greek was a great gig to do.
Greek was good. I'd done the Greek with Peter Gabriel. Fantastic. But I remember doing this one particular, and Phil used to finish with this song called Take Me Home. Take me home. Well, because I don't remember. It was a bit of a chorus thing, and the audience used to all sing along. But unknown to Phil, somebody walked on Stevie Wonder behind him, singing it, you know. And the house, like another thing, like Marvin Gaye walking on stage with AWB, you know, it just brought the house down, you know. Stevie Wonder on stage with Phil Collins in the mid-80s singing Take Me Home, you know, fantastic.
Yeah.